Throughout history, medicine has been marked by desperate efforts to cure disease. Yet many of the remedies were just as brutal, if not more so, than the illnesses they aimed to treat. Imagine living in a time when pain was considered an essential part of healing and medical procedures resembled forms of torture. From boring holes into skulls to the use of toxic substances, this journey will uncover some of the most terrifying practices in medical history. Trepanation. Drilling the skull to heal the soul. Trepanation is among the oldest known medical procedures with archaeological evidence dating back more than 7,000 years. This method involved drilling or scraping a hole into the skull using crude tools like sharp stones. The procedure was believed to treat various conditions, such as headaches, epilepsy, and mental disorders. Without anesthesia or an understanding of infection, patients experienced unbearable pain during the process. Practitioners believed that illnesses were caused by evil spirits trapped inside the body, and that opening the skull would release them. Remarkably, some individuals survived as evidenced by bone regrowth on ancient skulls. However, many died due to blood loss or infection risks that were nearly impossible to avoid at the time. Surprisingly, trepanation didn't vanish completely. It was still in use as late as the 19th century by some physicians and spiritual healers, maintaining its place as one of history's most dangerous medical procedures. Bloodletting, draining life to save it for centuries. Bloodletting was one of the most widely practiced medical treatments. The concept was based on the now outdated theory that diseases stemmed from imbalances in the body's four humors. Doctors believed that by removing blood, they could restore this balance. Using sharp blades or live leeches, they would drain significant amounts of blood from patients. While the procedure was thought to cure fevers, infections, and various other ailments, it often left patients too weak to stand. Historical records suggest that even George Washington underwent bloodletting shortly before his death. Many believe it hastened the end of his life. Incredibly, bloodletting was sometimes recommended for healthy individuals as a preventive measure. Despite lacking scientific merit, this practice persisted for hundreds of years, a reminder of how early medicine could be as harmful as the diseases it tried to cure. Mercury treatment, a remedy more dangerous than the disease. Mercury, a substance now known to be highly toxic, was once hailed as a wonder drug. It was especially common in the treatment of syphilis, a widespread sexually transmitted infection in Europe during the 15th and 16th centuries. The treatment involved applying mercury ointments to the skin or inhaling mercury vapors. While it offered temporary relief from symptoms, it caused devastating side effects such as tooth loss, organ failure, and in many cases, death. A popular saying at the time, "A night with Venus, a lifetime with Mercury," highlighted the lasting consequences of this so-called cure. Ironically, mercury remained in use well into the 20th century, despite its well-documented toxicity. Its history shows how the desperation for a cure often led doctors to embrace remedies that caused more harm than good. Cauterization with hot iron, burning to heal. In ancient and medieval medicine, cauterization was a common tool for treating wounds and illnesses. The method involved applying red-hot metal instruments directly to the skin to seal wounds, stop bleeding, or eliminate infection. With no anesthesia, the process was agonizing. Patients often suffered secondary infections or permanent scarring from the burns. At the time, however, this brutal approach was considered effective. Cauterization also held symbolic significance. Fire was believed to heal the body physically and purify the soul. Yet for the patients, it was torture disguised as treatment. While modern medicine still uses cauterization in controlled environments, the primitive methods of the past serve as a grim reminder of the suffering once endured in the name of healing. Surgery without anesthesia, pain as part of the process. Before the development of anesthesia in the 19th century, all surgical procedures were done while patients were fully awake. Whether amputating a limb or operating on internal organs, doctors worked with rudimentary tools and no way to dull the pain. Surgeons had to work fast. Too much pain could send patients into shock or even kill them before the operation was complete. The screams of patients were common in operating rooms, and many had to be restrained by assistants to prevent movement. Infections were rampant as sterilization practices had not yet been discovered. Post-operative death rates were extremely high. Nevertheless, performing surgery without pain relief was seen as a test of courage for both the surgeon and the patient. This practice stands in stark contrast to modern medicine, where anesthesia has revolutionized surgical care and spared patients enormous suffering. Leech therapy, a cure through repulsive creatures. Leeches were a staple of medical practice for centuries, especially in Europe and the Middle East. These blood-sucking creatures were placed on patients to remove excess blood and restore balance to the body's humors. Doctors believed this could treat a wide range of issues, including high blood pressure and skin conditions. The process was both painful and hazardous. Leeches would bite into the skin and remain attached for hours, often leading to infections or severe blood loss. Though leeches still have limited use in modern reconstructive surgery, their widespread application in the past exemplifies how flawed medical theories led to treatments that were both frightening and ineffective. Cold water shock therapy, punishment in the guise of healing. In the 18th and 19th centuries, cold water shock therapy was a common treatment in psychiatric hospitals and medical centers. Patients were submerged in icy water or had cold water poured over them, supposedly to calm the mind or reset the body. Often used on those suffering from mental illnesses, seizures, or high fevers, the method was anything but therapeutic. It caused intense physical discomfort, and in many cases, patients experienced hypothermia, shock, or death. Despite its harsh effects, it was favored for being quick and cheap. Eventually, its brutal and ineffective nature led to its complete abandonment, forced purging and vomiting, emptying the body to heal it. In ancient and medieval times, purging and induced vomiting were seen as essential treatments to rid the body of toxins. Doctors administered substances that caused vomiting or diarrhea, aiming to eliminate internal imbalances. The process was violent, and exhausting. Patients often became so weak they could barely move. Some were subjected to these treatments, repeatedly resulting in dehydration and even death. These methods were used for both minor complaints and serious diseases considered a universal remedy. However, instead of healing, they frequently worsened a patient's condition, underscoring how early medicine valued theory over evidence. Toxic herbs and poisons. Between cure and danger before modern pharmaceuticals, healers relied on plants and substances that were often toxic. Ingredients like belladonna, arsenic, and hemlock were used to treat headaches, fevers, and insomnia. While some of these plants had medicinal effects in small doses, the lack of understanding about proper dosage often led to poisoning. Symptoms included paralysis, convulsions, and sometimes death. Doctors of the time were unaware of the full risks, and in their eagerness to cure sometimes endangered the lives of those they sought to help. These practices serve as a warning that natural does not always mean safe. Early electrocution therapy, electricity as a tool of despair. In the late 19th century, with electricity newly discovered, some doctors began using it as a medical treatment. Early electrotherapy involved delivering electrical shocks to various parts of the body to cure conditions such as paralysis, epilepsy, and depression. However, the technology was crude and dangerous. Patients suffered burns, heart failure, or permanent nerve damage. In psychiatric hospitals, electrotherapy was often used without discretion, causing immense suffering. Although modern electrotherapy has evolved into safer and more effective forms, these early experiments reflect how unregulated scientific exploration can lead to devastating consequences. The history of medicine is filled with examples of well-intentioned but harmful practices. From trepanation to bloodletting and toxic substances, these treatments remind us how far we've come. What once seemed rational now appears horrifying. Yet these outdated methods reflect a fundamental desire to heal, even when science had not yet caught up. Thanks to advances in knowledge, many of these dangerous procedures have been left behind, paving the way for safe, evidence-based care. Still, they remain a powerful reminder that every step in medical progress came with a cost, and often with pain.